So my name's Andy Dickinson and I work at the University of Central Lancashire, where I'm based out of the Media Innovation Studio, which is a design and research studio. But in my other side of my job, I'm a senior lecturer in digital journalism. In Hyperlocal media is independent media that represents a community, and it can be quite small. It can be literally, in the UK we have postcodes which define a number of streets. It could be a postcode, a few streets, it could be a village, a town, a rural area, but they're not traditional media organisations. Some of them actively push against being described as journalists and journalistic organisations. They would say they're community orientated. Very broad terms, hyperlocal data journalism for me is a civically motivated use of open government data to release democratic, economic and social value to local communities using data journalism, which is a very long way of saying I think that there is a wealth of data that's being generated by local government that's there to use in an open format, and that if you give local people and local media organisations the right skills, the right data journalism skills, then I think there are really interesting things that you can do with that aren't the hyperlocal data journalism concept has come out of some of the work that I've been doing with a project called Media Mill. The project is funded by Innovate UK, who are the innovation office of the UK government, and Nesta, who are the National Endowment for Science, Technology and the Arts, who are an innovation charity, an independent innovation charity. And they had a fund called Destination Local, and one of the things that they were interested in looking at was how a combination of a very local focus, more open government data available at a local level, and the hyperlocal media could work together to explore some of the things that I've been talking about. So the main output for that at the moment is a data dashboard product called Solomon, which is a free open source product. But what that does is it allows a user to identify a data set on the local council's data portal, point that to the dashboard and create a little interactive map, chart, visualization of that data. So it's putting some very easy to use tools and an easy way to organise that information in the hands of people who might not necessarily have that kind of level of understanding of connecting that idea of open data. I'm very interested in tools that allow communities to collect their own data. So one of the projects that we're looking at is a combination of open data and sensors and the Internet of Things, and so we're looking at small, relatively inexpensive environmental sensors, so they'll measure air pollution, air quality, those kind of sensors, and connecting those to mobile phones and using that to gather very, very local data about the environmental conditions. So one of the projects is a little digital pet that lives on your phone, and as you make healthy and environmentally conscious decisions about how you get from A to B, if the air quality is good, your pet thrives. If the air quality is not good, then your pet doesn't thrive. And essentially the promise of data journalism, like the promise of open government data, is that this stuff makes the world a better place, more broadly. And whilst it clearly, in motivation, tries to, and in very large kind of examples of data journalism we see clear impact, so like the Panama Papers, there's clearly some impact from that. At the same time, I'm not entirely sure that we could say with any certainty that the kinds of data journalism that we produce is useful. So I don't mean it has impact, I don't mean that it makes journalism look great, I don't mean that people read that and go, I now know something different about the world. But the next step is that they can take that data themselves and they can go and do something with it. So yes, they can play with and interact it, but what do they actually do? So there's a phrase in open data and in open government data called reuse. It's not about access, that's kind of freedom of information. It's as much the emphasis is on reuse, people doing useful and interesting things with that data. And I'd like to see more research in journalism and data journalism that allows us to say with more confidence that that stuff is being reused and it's doing what we think it does, which is serve a social and a democratic need.